Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. How do you feel about this fight, and where do you see this fight?
Remember, Khamzat never have a conditioning problem before this. After COVID, it really messed him up. And I was there. He was bleeding, like throwing up like blood.
Imagine standing in a packed arena, lights flashing, and thousands of fans shouting your name. Khamzat Chimaev walks toward the cage, eyes locked on his rival, and he tells everyone listening one daring promise: "I'll finish him in the first round." Those words aren't whispered. They explode like fireworks across social media. People gasp, cheer, and argue with each other. Is he bragging, or is he just telling the truth? In a single sentence, Khamzat sparks a fire that races around the world, making even casual fans set reminders for UFC 319 on August 16th to watch the fight live.
Wanted to get your thoughts on Dricus as a champion, his run so far, and what do you make of his grappling?
What do you think, guys? How I done with this guy, Rob? How he done? Rob took him down. So if Rob took him down, so there is salam alaikum.
Khamzat's bold warning is not an empty threat. The undefeated fighter from Chechnya has built his whole reputation on lightning-fast victories. He charges forward like a storm, grabs his opponents, and never lets go. At UFC 319, he will face Dricus Du Plessis, the South African powerhouse who now holds the middleweight belt. The date is August 16th, and both athletes have circled it in bright red. Khamzat tells reporters he plans to smash anybody who blocks his path, but he puts extra heat on DDP, promising to end things before the first 5-minute round is over.
Yeah, I think Khamzat is an incredible fighter, but you're fighting in the top 5 of the UFC, everybody's incredible fighters. Khamzat is an absolute animal, absolutely, but I mean, you look at the Gilbert Burns fight, which you could have scored either way. You look at the Kamaru Usman fight, and you go, yeah, he did beat Robert Whittaker.
Fans see video clips of him squeezing past rivals in training, lap after lap, and they believe him. Khamzat posts photos of sunrise runs in the desert and late-night wrestling drills. Every message uses the same idea: domination. Kids at school trade stickers of him throwing people like dolls. Older fans remember his earlier fights where he won in a total time shorter than a television commercial. All of that history folds into this moment. The question hanging in the air is simple but scary. Can anyone stop a man who has never needed more than a round to prove his point? Most people's eyes pop wide when they remember what Khamzat did to Robert Whittaker, a former champion known for iron-hard defense. In that fight, Khamzat didn't even need a clean choke or fancy lock.
Did you see TDP and Khamzat got announced?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Where's that gonna be at?
Chicago.
Oh no. They're letting the terrorists in.
Do you think he beats TDP, or do you think TDP retains?
You know what's hard? So those little Chechen, they can grapple.
He simply wrapped one arm around Whittaker's face and crushed down so hard he cracked the man's jaw, all while the crowd watched in stunned silence. Fight analysts compare that moment to a bear hugging a tree until the trunk snaps. They replay it in slow motion, pointing out how Khamzat's hips control the angle, how his shoulder blocks every escape path. But then they ask the big question: is DDP built differently? Du Plessis wrestled at a high level in South Africa, earned belts in jiu-jitsu, and carries the kind of farm boy strength that doesn't fade easily. He hits like a truck and walks around with a chest as thick as an oak stump. Commentators admit that if anyone can keep his balance when Khamzat shoots low, it might be this brawny champion. Yet they also admit something else. No one, not even Olympic-class grapplers, have stayed on their feet once Khamzat gets his grip.
Is Khamzat going to be able to take me down? Absolutely. Absolutely he'll be able to take me down. This is how a fight works. I would hope so. Isn't he like some Swedish champion or something? I would hope he could take me down. But then he has to deal with me on the ground, and he has to keep me there.
The debate feels like an unstoppable force meeting a stone mountain, and fans can't wait to see which side breaks first. Michael Bisping, the former middleweight king who now breaks fights down on television, adds fuel to the fire every time he speaks. He says Du Plessis is no hidden gem because the champion already knocked out Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, and Robert Whittaker, 3 huge names. Still, whenever Bisping thinks about Khamzat, he uses a simple kitchen image, a hot knife sliding through butter. The picture is easy. Butter can't push back. It only melts. Bisping explains that Khamzat's style is to storm forward, pick a limb, and slice through resistance until nothing is left. Then he wonders aloud, what happens if the butter suddenly hardens? Going 5 full rounds in a title fight is like running 5 sprints with a backpack of rocks.
De Renner has trained with both of them. He said there's going to be an early storm by Chimaev, but he believes Dricus can sustain the storm, and each passing minute favors Dricus. Now, what he's talking about is conditioning. You asked me about that fight 2 years ago or a year ago, even 6 months ago. I would have quickly dismissed it and told you Chimaev. I would tell you Chimaev every single round.
So far, Khamzat has not had to carry those rocks. He ends his nights early and walks to the locker room, barely sweating. Bisping points at the calendar and says August 16th could be different. If DDP survives the opening storm, we will finally see whether Khamzat's wild energy can last 15, 20, or the full 25 minutes that the middleweight crown demands. The thought of that unknown time limit makes the build-up even sharper. Paul Felder, another retired fighter who once traded fists in the UFC cage, looks at the matchup from a different angle. He describes the first 5 minutes of every Khamzat fight as pure chaos, like being trapped in a washing machine on the fastest spin cycle. Felder says Khamzat rushes out, shoots for the hips, climbs the back, and hammers fists all in one breath. That burst is so heavy that many skilled athletes panic, tap out, or get flattened before they know what happened.
Think about Khamzat's win against Whitaker.
It's like, I expect Khamzat can beat him, but not like this,
That was crazy.
Beat him like very easy, and he's like one of the best in his division. And I hope he will soon fight for the title.
Yet Felder also studies DDP's past battles and notices something special. The South African keeps proving people wrong. When experts picked Whitaker to outclass him, DDP landed thunderous strikes and forced a stoppage. When fans doubted his ground game, he slipped into chokes and forced taps. Because of those surprises, Felder leaned slightly toward DDP, even while admitting that the champ might spend the first round trapped under a freight train. Felder's opinion strikes a nerve with viewers because it offers hope that the fight will not be one-sided. Kids on message boards create polls asking, "Who survives the storm?" And Felder's voice keeps the numbers close to 50-50. Eddie Alvarez, who once wore gold in 2 different promotions, brings his own street-smart lens. He calls Khamzat a powerhouse, the kind of athlete whose raw strength cracks doors that other fighters can only knock on.
I want to fight him very badly. I want to hurt him. Doesn't matter if he won that fight or not.
But Alvarez can't shake the nagging respect he holds for Du Plessis. He describes DDP as odd because the champ's movements aren't smooth like dance steps. They are jagged, almost clumsy, yet somehow land in the right place. Alvarez compares watching DDP to seeing a crooked nail that still holds the house together during a storm. He admires DDP's crazy cardio, saying the South African trains like someone who owes the world a debt of sweat. Every morning run looks uphill. Every sparring round seems to end only when the clock dies. Alvarez tells his podcast listeners that fighters like DDP just find a way, even when the technique book says they shouldn't. That hint of possibility makes betting lines shift. Some gamblers throw last-minute coins on DDP, hoping the champ's stubborn engine can outlast Khamzat's early blast. Alvarez's words remind everyone that messy fighters who never quit can break even the cleanest machines. Chael Sonnen, famous for clever trash talk and deep wrestling knowledge, slices the matchup into simple plans. Plan A, he says, is the same script Khamzat always uses: shoot a double leg, drag the opponent down, and maul until the referee gets nervous. If that fails, Plan B is to turn the cage into a phone booth and trade fists until someone wobbles. Sonnen isn't sure DDP will crumble, which is new because Sonnen remembers a time when almost everyone believed Khamzat was unbeatable. He calls fans fickle because they flip opinions faster than a coin. This fight, Sonnen argues, could prove whether Khamzat's aura of invincibility is real or just good lighting. He also zooms out and looks at the whole 185-pound landscape. With rising stars like Bo Nicol and killers like Sean Strickland still hovering near the top, Sonnen says middleweight has never been this dangerous. A win on August 16th might not just crown a champion, it could start a fresh era where wrestlers, strikers, and hybrids trade gold every few months. Sonnen's big-picture angle turns one fight into a chapter of a much larger story, and that makes even casual viewers feel part of something historic.
Khamzat is next. I want to make sure that this belt, the middleweight title, that there's no question that I'm the GOAT.
In the mountains of Dagestan, where wrestling mats smell like hard work and sweat drips from the ceiling, Arman Zarukian joins Khamzat's training camp. Arman is a lightweight contender, but he walks into the gym ready to wrestle a man who outweighs him by 25 pounds. He calls the camp a battlefield, not a classroom. Coaches blow whistles, rounds last longer than normal, and nobody saves energy for later. Khamzat drags partners across the canvas, working chain takedowns, ground and pound, and slick submission switches. Arman says if he can survive those sessions, he can wrestle with anybody on earth. Photos leak online showing Khamzat sparring heavyweights, throwing them with hip tosses usually seen in smaller divisions. At night, the fighters jump into ice baths placed outside under the stars, their breath turning into clouds. Nutritionists cook giant pans of rice and lean meat, while Khamzat repeats his first-round promise like a chant. These camp details matter to fans because they reveal a process, not just a highlight reel. By the time fight week arrives, supporters imagine Khamzat forged like iron in a furnace, while critics wonder if such brutal preparation drains a fighter before the big night. Kamaru Usman, once the welterweight ruler, smiles when reporters ask about the matchup. He warns fans not to sleep on Khamzat, reminding them that many thought Robert Whittaker would handle the Chechen, only to see the Aussie dominated in minutes. Yet Usman does not dismiss DDP. He remembers the South African streak of beating 3 champions in a row and says, any fighter who can do that deserves real respect. Robert Whittaker himself, still nursing memories of Khamzat's pressure, believes Du Plessis has the toughness to hand Khamzat his first loss. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, known for karate kicks and calm analysis, points out that Khamzat sometimes fades after the opening storm. He thinks if DDP drags the fight into the later rounds, the awkward champ can flip the script. These opinions pour gasoline on the fire. Video montages show Usman praising Khamzat's strength, Whittaker nodding to DDP's chances, and Wonderboy sketching arrows on a whiteboard to explain energy drains. For young fans, the message is clear. 2 warriors with elite backers are about to clash, and even legends can't agree who wins. The uncertainty turns every press conference quote into breaking news. The fighter community splits like a ripe watermelon. Curtis Blades, a heavyweight who knows the pain of takedowns, picks Khamzat because he trusts power mixed with wrestling. Mateusz Gamrot and Movsar Evloev nod along, pointing at Khamzat's grip strength and chain attacks. On the opposite side, Jamahal Hill shakes his head. He has doubted DDP before and paid the price, so he now backs the South African's awkward punches and endless lungs. Mike Perry pictures DDP's size and fearless attitude bulldozing through the early storm. Michael Venom Page says no one is stopping Khamzat right now, yet admits DDP's muscle endurance could spell trouble after the adrenaline dump. Fans watch these interviews like weather reports. Will the storm turn left or right? Social media graphics pop up with bar charts showing pick percentages. Each time a new star declares, the bars shift. Some kids screenshot the charts and place tiny bets with friends. Others make meme posters. One side shows Khamzat as a tank, the other shows DDP as a stubborn rhino. The tension is playful but also serious, because these are athletes who have lived inside the cage and felt exactly how fast momentum can change. The final days before UFC 319 feel electric. Press conferences turn into verbal duels, and open workouts look like mini wars. Reporters chase every detail. Who weighed what this morning? Did DDP land that wild overhand in sparring? Did Khamzat's coach hint at a new choke? Behind all the noise lies one simple truth. The opening round may decide everything. If Khamzat bursts out like a cannonball and finds DDP's back, the fight could end before commercials roll. If DDP survives, the bout could flip into a test of heart, lungs, and courage that stretches the full 25 minutes. That razor-thin edge is why the middleweight division now feels deeper than ever. A single slip, a defended takedown, or a blocked punch could reshape the belt picture not just for August, but for the next year. Fans print homemade scorecards and set alarms for the pay-per-view. Parents who never watch MMA promise to let their kids stay up late because everyone wants to witness the round that could shake the sport. In the end, anticipation itself becomes a character in the story, breathing as loudly as any fighter waiting behind the curtain. Backyards buzz with debate. People fire up grills as if it were a World Cup final. Subscribe and let's follow up in the next one very, very soon.